From the wastelands of the internet, I once again have come to enlighten you with the news of the week. Well, what I consider news of the week, even though some of it's not much news of the week. I am here today with Batman. When he comes back, he is busy feeding the cats, as some of you may have already seen. With the little fan service that I gave, he's got a lot of cats to deal with to try and feed for the day. I hope that things are working out with this cat at the moment because he's not here right as we start, or right as I decided to start. Um, I'm hoping that he shows up again very quickly, unless the cat has basically wrestled him to the ground and is now chewing on his face, which I hope that isn't the case. I hope that isn't what's happening to him. But we have news. We have news, and we're going to start with something very simple, and that's this right here. Explosions heard in Ukrainian cities. Explosions were heard in several cities across the Ukraine on Saturday morning as Russia launched missile attacks against the country, the Ukrainian Air Force and media outlets said. Uh, yeah. Okay. Uh, why am I even doing this story? There wasn't much there. No man, there wasn't. You're not saying a whole lot, and I'm not. You're correct. This is just a very simple story to remind everybody that with everything else going on, there's still a war going on in the Ukraine. It is still a conflict. People, unfortunately, are fighting and dying, all right, even today. And we tend to forget in a country where we're not dealing with this kind of conflict, all right, that there are people who are suffering, and I want it to be acknowledged that we're aware of this, even if most of the news never even refers to it right now because of the internals that are happening around. Okay, so I think it's important and incumbent upon us to understand what's really been going on. All right, so let's move on to another story. Former Fox News host books banned from Florida schools. More than 1,500 books have been temporarily removed from a Florida school district this week, including two written by former Fox News host Bill O'Reilly. The Florida Freedom to Read Project recently obtained a list of books that have been temporarily removed from libraries in Escambia Public or County Public School District, which includes encyclopedias, the Guinness Book of World Records, and two books from conservative pundit O'Reilly, Killing Jesus, A History, and Killing Reagan, A Violent Assault That Changed a Presidency. According to PEN America, the list also contains titles from David Baldici. Again, I'm not trying to butcher your name. All right, Stephen King, John Grisham, and Nicholas Sparks. In a statement to Newsweek, Escambia County Public Schools Superintendent Keith Leonard said, I want to clarify that our district has not imposed a ban on over 1,500 books. Additionally, the dictionary had not been banned in our district. Any claims suggesting otherwise are inaccurate and can be disregarded. Batman, is that you? Have you returned to us now?
Yep, but I'm going to mute for a second because you don't want to hear what I'm about to do.
Okay. I hope it's not bringing the cat out. Are you trying to turn out the cat, kind of like a Fred Flintstone? Is that what it was? No.
No,
Yeah.
you just didn't want to hear me evacuating my hooter.
Ah, I see. So,
You know,
go ahead.
I wasn't going to talk about what you're on about now. I was just going to point something out.
Mm-hmm.
Two things, actually. People are fucking stupid. And what's happening in the world now is actually proving the prime director of Star Trek correct.
In what way?
We've allowed Bronze Age people, modern technology, and look what they're doing with it.
Okay.
The Middle East.
Yeah, I understand the Middle East. We haven't gotten to the Middle East yet in the conflicts over there at the moment.
Yeah.
But
It's proven, yeah, you give people technology they're not prepared for, they fuck up with it.
they're going to use it according to the cultural level that they're at.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the Middle East, it has more to do with the fact that they're they're
It's,
constantly being supplied those weapons, right? They
yeah.
have they have yet to learn the results of those. They're learning it slowly, but they have yet to really
Yep.
encompass the whole thing.
Oh, here's one for you then. Going by that. Back in the 60s when Star Trek was being made, the Soviet Union was constantly supplying places like the Middle East with weapons and technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was an episode of Star Trek.
Oh well, let me
I
rephrase that.
forget what it was called.
They were supplying them with weapons. They were not supplying them with technology though, and I
Yeah,
want
but
people to
weapons and
understand.
technology
Well,
tend to go hand in hand. But either way, there was an episode where there was this planet like there was these hunter gatherers, and there were these people living in villages, and the Klingons were giving them technology to make flintlocks,
yes,
and that was exactly what the Russians were doing with the fucking Middle East and other
it
places like in Africa and
well,
places.
the Klingons in the original Star Trek were a euphemism of the Russians
Yep,
or the
because
Soviets. Let me rephrase that.
their culture was originally designed to be very close to Cossack culture.
Yeah, but it was really supposed to be, like I said, a euphemism more of so how the Soviet Union was
Yeah.
run, including the spying on themselves and all the other stuff that was involved
Hmm.
in it. The changes that they did in the next generation to the Klingons.
They turned them Japanese. I think they turned them Japanese. I really think so. Ding
Um,
ding 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 ding. Sorry. No, they did though.
to an
They
extent, I
turned
would
them into
agree.
Japanese Vikings.
Well, they turned
Actually,
it into a wishful a wishful
they
group of
turned they
people
turned them into a
that
cross between they turned them into a cross between samurai, Vikings, and Hell's Angels.
to an extent, yeah, yeah, it's to a large extent. But back to the story that I was just doing, right? Um, the fact that books were being removed and they're being reviewed for continuation. All right, this story by and who's by Matthew and Polly. My problem with the story, all right, for those who well, once again I'll just show it up here so that people can see what I'm looking at. My problem with this is Matthew and Pelly here. He's not approaching this honestly. Okay, and I'm not saying that the story is inaccurate. Okay, but he's trying to do this to try and create a wedge. All right,
It's not the story that's inaccurate; it's the way he's presenting it. Is
correct.
that what you mean?
He's hiding his intentions behind this. He's not being honest with why he's even writing the story. He's trying to write this story to say, "Hey, look at you evil conservatives! You guys are getting banned because O'Reilly's getting banned." And I know that because of the title of the book, former Fox News hosts. Books are bad. See, it's getting to you guys too. And it's like that's
Yeah,
not what they're
but
doing.
burn a
This is
book
a
for
school
God.
district that's reviewing these books, and I have no problem with the reviewing any of these books, especially O'Reilly's books, because they can have content in them that you don't necessarily need. All right, in every freaking elementary school. All right, going on there. A 6-year old does not need to read about killing Jesus or killing Lincoln. All right, especially the graphic details that O'Reilly goes into in some of those books. Okay,
The
you
main
don't
thing
need to
that
be doing
kids
that.
The main thing that I'm assuming you mean from ages 5 to what, 11?
Between five to 12 is really what we consider elementary
Yeah,
school.
that age group, their literature should be subtly introducing them to moral values and stuff like that.
Well, right. You're trying to establish rules of society and so forth. You don't
Like,
need to be you don't need to
yeah,
be trying to
look
get
at comic.
overly
Hold on,
graphic with
hold on.
this.
Look at the comic books you and me used to read as kids.
Hmm.
Yeah, our parents thought they were rubbish. They weren't though. They gave you a really good sense of morality, didn't they?
To some extent,
And
some of it
ethics.
was
I mean,
rubbish. Some of it was rubbish. Let's be honest.
well, you can say that about every form of literature you can point out
Good morning, Nimble Horse.
in equal, yeah, in equal measure.
Yes.
But you got a good grounding of morality and ethics from them. You also got an increased vocabulary because you were given a word, right? But you were shown the word in action because the comic. It's a comic. It's a visual medium. So you got a word. And you got to see what the word meant.
Right. We are visual
It's
creatures, and it
because of
was
comics I
another
learned to read by
visual.
the time I was 4.
Yeah, it was another visual medium. We are visual animals, right? Visual acuity is one of the things that's really important to us. All
And
right.
I'm surprised Matt Barkley isn't here yet.
Well, he's in the middle of the snowstorm, in the
Is he?
cold in the winter. He's in New
It's no fun, that.
York.
He's in New York.
Yeah.
What? And he watches your. He's in New York and he watches. Ah, that's it. He's probably been raided by the cops.
Well, that's a possibility as well. It's a definite possibility anymore with some of the stuff. So, but yeah, it is. You're right about some of that stuff. All right. As far as where people got things reinforced as kids and so
Hmm.
forth. Um, and some of the things were rubbish in other ways because they devalued certain other things. Comic books devalued other things, which were not necessarily good. All right, it is what it
Yeah,
is. All right, but let's go on. Are you ready for the next story?
not really.
We'll do it anyway. Iran identifies the
Oh,
alleged mastermind behind Soleimani's memorial bombing that left nearly 100 dead, says report. Iran arrests 35 in connection with the Kerman attacks, claims one bomber got ISIS training. Iran announced Thursday that it has identified the alleged mastermind behind the dual suicide bombing attacks that left nearly 100 people dead at a recent memorial for the late terrorist Qasem Soleimani. And I know it doesn't say that, but he was, right? Who was killed years ago by a U.S. drone strike. Um, do you remember? Do you remember where this drone strike was?
nope. But can I make a joke here?
Sure.
American knock knock joke.
FBI, open up!
Thought you'd
I,
appreciate that one.
I don't think that that's necessarily a joke, unfortunately. Anyway, the IR the Iranian news agency IRNA, all right, carried a statement by the intelligence ministry saying that the main suspect who planned the January 3rd attack in Kerman, a city southeast of Iran's capital of Tehran, was
Oh
Tajik.
yeah, that place. It's got a. It's got a frog as the mayor, hasn't it?
Yeah, as it was
Kerman the
Tajik,
frog.
a national known by his alias Abdullah Tajiki. Tajiki reportedly entered the country in mid December by crossing Iran's southeast border and left 2 days before the attack after making the bombs. One bomber first detonated explosives at the ceremony in Kerman, then the other attacked 20 minutes later as the emergency workers and others tried to help the wounded, right, from the first explosion. Okay.
I don't care what the people who were caught in the explosion, their political views were, their religious views were. They got hit by an explosion. They're people, so yeah, you've got to give them sympathy. You obviously disagree with me.
Yes, I do. All right, because I don't give any Iranian sympathy. All right. And I
Most
mean, what I
Iranians
mean by
want
that,
rid of. Hold on. Most Iranians want rid of the Muslim extremist government because
then step
they're
up and
Muslims
do it.
by they're Muslims by they do
Then
they
step
they
up,
have they
and we need to
attempt they
support those
attempt.
people.
Hold on.
And I agree.
Yeah,
But
we need to support those people, but they're trying all the time to revolt and rebel, and they get crushed.
well, okay. But one of the people
Like,
that
it's
was
only a couple of years
hold
ago
on a
when
second.
they
But Batman, when it comes to this, all right, one of the people who was crushing those rebellions that you're constantly talking about was this Soleimani. All right, he was the
yeah
head
the
of the
guy who
Republican
set off the bomb.
Guard. All right, and he was one of the people who was deeply involved in crushing these revolts and everything else. And this was a memorial service for this son of a bitch. Okay,
Hmm.
so the people who got killed in the explosions, look, don't misunderstand me. It is bad that you're attacking people indiscriminately like this, all right, and
Yeah,
that you're not attacking hard points, okay. But there's another aspect of this that also has to be looked at, which is okay. This is a quote unquote religious war between two sects of Islam, and it's a sect of Islam, all right, that during our attempt to deal with Afghanistan, all right,
the Wahhabis.
The Iranians were fully in support of and giving them weapons and helping to give them supplies, all right, and bombs to kill Americans. Now that is
And
now
British
being
and
used,
French.
turned right around back and used against them, and you want me to cry for them? Now, when it comes to the Iranian
I
people, and I
didn't say
understand,
cry. Hold on. I didn't say cry. Said you got to have sympathy with them.
I
There is a
don't have
difference.
I have sympathy for certain individuals. Okay, I
Yeah,
will have sympathetic
that's what I'm on
toward
about.
individuals, but when you talk about people, that's different than a person. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Now there
If
might
I
be
said
some
no, I'd
sympathetic.
be a liar.
Well, okay, all
No,
right, but in this regard, look,
sorry.
in this regard, it's not that I don't feel for these people and have compassion for what's happened. All right, but the reality is this is the culture. This is a culture war that they're having. It's a true hot war. We talk about a culture war where people are yelling at one another in America. All right, but a
Yeah,
culture war over there means you're throwing bombs at one another. You're bombing mosques. You're bombing each other left and right.
talking about bombing mosques. Hello there, Sixer.
And snack bar.
Yeah,
And
yes,
snack bar.
yes. Hello, it's not part of you. And Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
Hey,
So,
Sixer,
Yes.
got a joke for you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I would
There's a
say uh oh
Christian
too.
and a Muslim standing outside a kindergarten, right? An infant school. Both
Probably
waiting
what
for
the
a
camera.
both waiting for a 5-year-old girl, right? What's the
No.
difference between them?
Go on.
One's the Christian's waiting for his daughter, the Muslim's waiting for his wife.
Oh, oh, boo, boo.
Yeah, I think 60 would have rather had the paraplegic hurdles.
Well, I think he's doing the same thing I am, which is rolling his eyes. To be
Yes, yes. Not just because the joke wasn't funny, but because it was true.
there's an aspect of that I can't deny. I mean, that's very true. Let's get on to the next story.
I am not saying anything.
He's not going to be the one who gets banned. It's me.
That's why I'm not going to dig my own grave, because you know what
Oh,
I'm going to say.
Did you hear the American knock joke, Sixer?
Oh,
No.
go
You'll
on.
like it. The American
Go on.
knock joke.
Go on.
FBI, open up!
You had to say go on. Okay.
Got it with that one. Got it with that one.
Alrighty. Ecuador erupts in civil war with cartel thugs. President orders the army onto the streets as crazed criminals rampage through the cities, with a television station seized, university attacked, and jail guards executed following an escape of mob boss. Why are you still
Sorry,
laughing?
what was that? Sorry, what?
Ecuador has erupted
not
into
hear him in the
civil war
background.
with cartel thugs after the president ordered the army onto the streets and declared a state of internal armed conflict. Crazed criminals have rampaged through the South American country's cities today after President Daniel Noboa, 36, ordered a state of emergency. Hooded gangsters seized a state television station. All right, today, while a university was attacked and jail guards were reportedly executed by prisoners, Ecuador has been rocked
I
by a series of attacks, including explosions
saw
and
that,
abduction
yeah.
of several police officers after the government imposed a state of emergency in wake of the escape of a powerful gang leader from prison. Adolfo Fito
It's a
Macias.
South American country.
Right.
The gangs run South American countries.
Well, okay. I think one of the things that
Sorry, not the gangs, the cartels.
Well, right. I think that's one of the problems that people have, right? Is it's hard for us to understand the difference between what these guys are like and so forth.
Here's one thing for you that
Go ahead.
here's one thing that explains quite how strong the cartels are in South America. Doesn't matter which country. If you're a South American footballer on your national team, right, and you don't win the World Cup, you're frightened to go home because you know that you're likely to get executed by the gangs.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Well, that did happen, but it was not because they didn't win the World Cup. It's because they scored their own goal. I mean,
No, it's happened a few times just because they came home without the World Cup.
yeah, it's unfortunate that this kind of situation is, but it shows you just how out of control this stuff is. It also shows you how feckless, and I'm going to be real bluntly, how feckless our the U.S. foreign policy is when it comes to this kind of stuff, because we're encouraging it.
There's one thing I think we should do. We should go into these third world countries, and we should remove all the modern technology because they can't use it responsibly. They kill each other with it, and then they try and kill us with it. So take it off them.
how you? So you go in there and just Pax Americana and just say, all right, we're in charge.
Yeah, until you've got rid of all the technology that they shouldn't have, then you leave.
Yeah. Well, at what point are they going to develop their own technology? At what point are they going to start acting?
Well, if we leave them alone and don't let them leave their little part, their part of the world.
Did we leave the Japanese alone?
The Japanese didn't leave us alone.
Did we leave the Germans alone?
What do you mean? Did we leave the German? The Germans were quite advanced anyway.
Not culturally, they weren't. Not prior to World War II, they weren't.
Yeah, but hold on. Every culture, every country in Europe and probably the UK as well would argue that culturally America's the one behind the times.
And you're completely lost. You completely lost the plot. Okay, you think the culture?
Nope.
I've been like that the moment I entered this stream.
You've been like that since you left the womb.
That is also true.
Yeah, let's get on to the next story. Tribes wanted to promote their history. Removing William Penn's statue wasn't a priority. All right, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The National Park Service proposal to remove a William Penn statue from the historic site in Philadelphia, quickly withdrawn amid backlash, wasn't a priority for some of the Native Americans the agency was required to consult as it prepared to renovate the deteriorating plaza. No, it wasn't. What it was there
Deteriorating.
was a bunch of leftists who wanted to sit up there and go scream, "This guy was a slaver. We got to get rid of anything that had to do with him, including." Which would at some point include changing the name of the state.
Yeah,
Because
Nelson Mandela State.
Pennsylvania is named for William Penn.
George Floyd.
Okay? So they were
Oh God, Nimblehorse, I love you.
America is a satellite. All right, but so the National Park Service was going to rip this down, claiming that it was, well, we're just removing a statue that's controversial, right? The backlash came very quickly, and so they came back and go, well, there were some Native Americans, and it wasn't a high priority to remove the statue. That's why we chose not to do it. Bullshit. You leftists got hammered. That's what it was. And what I would find out if I was granted, if Trump wins this election, one of the things that he needs to do is go through these agencies, right? Like the National Park Service, find out who it was that had this idea and get rid of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I like about the history of Native Americans and black Americans, like during the slave days.
Mm-hmm.
You always hear black people going, we got Cherokee or Apache in our family because black people used to run away from the plantation and the Native Americans would adopt. No, they didn't. They used to capture them, and if they didn't torture them to death, they'd sell them back.
Sometimes. I mean, there was a lot of things that went on. Right, the Cherokee especially.
The vast majority of the times, they'd either torture, especially if it's like the Comanche or the Apache, they'd either torture them to death or sell them back.
I don't know if, well, the
or
Comanches.
Keep them as slaves,
I will say that the Comanches, right? The Comanches. If you were not a Comanche and you were caught on their land as they saw it, you were likely going to be dead, and not nicely.
Or they'd keep them as slaves themselves. Actually, no, because there was a man called Horse. He was captured by the Comanche. No, it was the Apache.
No, was it? No, he wasn't, and not by the Apache either. He was the man called Horace was by the Lakota and the Sioux.
Yeah, the Sioux. Right. Sorry, my mistake.
There's a huge difference between the Comanche, the Apache, and the Sioux.
Apparently, that was based on a true story.
Yes. Right, but
there have been cases of Comanche and Apache coming across, the remnants of a wagon train. They're being attacked by bandits or whatever, and there's only kids left, and they actually adopted the kids.
Yeah, well, they did raid to grab children. Now the Comanche and the Apache hated each other to the degree that it was a genocide for both of them to try if they ever caught one of the other tribes. People don't know this. The Comanches and the Apaches had a long history of hating each other and so forth. In fact, if it wasn't for the Spanish settlers making a deal with the Comanche would have been wiped out by the Apache. To a man.
Yeah.
Not even this is not an exaggeration, right?
Yeah, because the Apaches were a lot more dangerous than the Comanche, I believe.
Well, the Apache were far better and also agriculturally more secure. Okay, so when early on, right? But when the Spanish missions came about, right? The Comanches, all right, who had been pushed back by the Apaches, and the Apaches had been pushed. You got to understand this: the Apaches were being pushed by the Aztecs, right? That's one of the reasons why the Apaches were moving as well. But the Apaches had made certain deals with several of the agricultural tribes, including the Navajo, which allowed them to continue their attacks and their spread. Okay. The Comanche, on the other hand, were just regular people just trying to survive, being pushed back by the Apaches. But it was very much a death throw for them.
Oh.
Okay, and
we don't know how Nimblehorse.
Oh.
So
Why?
anyway,
I
back
no said
back
how. You know how. We want to know why.
back to the
Ooh.
back to the news. The U.S. calls for Iran to immediately
News?
release seized tanker and crew. The United States has demanded Iran immediately release an oil tanker
Hello, Maddie.
seized by the Iranian military off the coast of Oman on Thursday, a move the Islamic Republic said was in retaliation for the U.S. seizures of Iranian oil shipments last year. Iran-enabled provocative actions like these are a menace to the global economy and must cease, said the defense deputy spokesman Vedant Patel. All right, on Thursday, Patel did not specify what further actions the U.S. would take, but said it continues to be a subject of conversation. All right, I'm going to be real blunt. If you go into this story, it's quite interesting in the sense that the ship that the Iranians seized was the same ship that was sailing under a different name that was seized by the United States earlier, all right, for shipping oil where it shouldn't belong. The tanker is owned by Greeks, Greek ownership, and was on its way to Turkey this time with crude oil. But the problem is the Iranians want to control the Gulf of Oman, they want to control the Persian Gulf, and they want to basically, through their Houthi rebels, want to sit up there and close off the Red Sea. Okay, and
Don't want much then.
they've been working with that. What was that?
I said, don't want much then.
Okay, well, no, they don't want much. All right, but they're going to continue to do this.
Yep.
Okay, anybody who thinks that they're going to stop at some point. Okay, first of all,
Mm-mm.
they
No.
want this conflict.
They want to control the entire Arabian Gulf.
Yes, they do. And what's more
It's like the Spanish want Gibraltar because that means they'll control both sides of the entrance to the Mediterranean,
right.
and they could literally start charging shipping entrance into the Mediterranean or exit from.
Well, exactly. But the other aspect of it is they're doing this stuff to provoke the United States because they have internal conflicts, which we had talked about a little bit earlier, Batman. And so this is one way to divert the population's, mentality. But the reality is, at this point, because of the fact that Iran has a long border with Russia, is there's no way to close them off. There's no way to isolate them. And it's been this way for a while, folks. So how long are you going to allow these tactics to take place? At some point, you're going to have to go in, and I'm going to be real blunt, with military action and eliminate every type of threat that these people pose, right, to shipping. Now, there's only one way to do that, and that's to massively go in there, bomb all the seaports, sink every freaking Iranian ship, and wipe out every freaking missile installation that they have on the coast.
Now, who's that? The US or
somebody? If you're going to fix this, that's the only way to do it.
Take the country over.
What I've heard is that at the moment the US is having an ammunition problem because they spent it all on Ukraine and everything else, so they haven't got ammunition themselves.
We've got a better ammunition problem. We used to make our own ammunition. I mean, I used to work in one of the Royal Ordnance factories, right?
Mm-hmm.
That factory no longer exists. There are no Royal Ordnance factories anywhere in the United Kingdom. We don't make our own ammunition anymore. We buy it, I think, from some place in Europe now.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yes, our government are idiots.
The United States does not really
by
have...
the sound of it, so is the US, because they're spending all the money away so they can't replenish their ammunition.
You can believe that if you want. Just remember, we have how many more guns in civilian hands?
Prove me wrong.
We have how many? We have how many guns in civilian hands? We have
how many you left behind in Afghanistan, huh?
We did that.
Just for a starter.
I've got to side with Nonads on this one. I mean, think about the think about the industrial muscle that the United States has. they could replenish their stocks of ammunition very quickly.
Yeah, the problem is
we'll see.
the
But,
problem is
doubt it.
getting the willpower to do it because we're too busy with other issues right now.
Yeah, the other
But you
problem
spent
is
using all that ammunition in other wars, other people's wars, and instead of protecting our own bloody borders.
Hey, you're not going to get me to argue with you. Right? Riots break out after the NYPD tries to seal the secret synagogue tunnels in Brooklyn. An NYPD visit
that's
to
not
a
a good
Brooklyn
look.
synagogue.
That's not a good look.
All right,
That is not a good look.
turned chaotic
Nope.
after police tried to fill a tunnel and an alcove at a site. The police visited the Chabad Lubavitch, headquarters synagogue in Brooklyn on Monday after the mysterious tunnels were discovered at the facility. The police report suggests that the work was done within the last few years, according to the Times of Israel. The ultra-Orthodox believers opposed the police by throwing benches at the officers and rioting inside the facility. Others wanted the tunnels to remain open, fled into them in hopes that their presence would dissuade the police.
No, it won't.
He said Jehovah!
Okay. First of all,
don't say throwing a gas grenade.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that was bad. Oh God, that was bad. I should have done that. That was really bad.
Okay. Now I want people to understand what I think on this because I've got something to say. Where did these tunnels come from? Right. I suspect that these tunnels were dug due to COVID. Okay, when they banned all these religious
that's a
sites.
popular hypothesis.
Okay,
yeah, very popular one.
The other part of that is
the other thing is Nomad, New York, modern New York is built on old New York to a large extent. So there's lots of cellars and stuff that are being basically built over and forgotten about. So making tunnels in New York is a piece of piss.
Yeah, well, it's like London, where there's secret tunnels or tunnels that have been forgotten about because there was tubes in subways that are no longer used and things like that. All that still exists, right? But now, the other thing about this is these tunnels. You got to remember, this is an Orthodox group of with teenagers and stuff. The tunnels kind of connect to the women's area as well. Okay, so these also become kind of like a teenagers rendezvous area.
Yep.
All right, and now I'm not saying that there aren't concerns here because when you start tunneling under things, collapsing tunnels collapse buildings and stuff too. So I mean, it is a concern, but I do think it's interesting that they don't ever talk really about the other aspects of this. And you can tell from the way people are trying to fight for these tunnels, right? That the big concern though was most likely they were upset because New York banned religion, all right, during COVID. It did. New York City did, and the state of New York.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's actually against the American Constitution.
It is. It is.
Even in an emergency.
And it's one of the problems that
a lot of
actually, I would say
broken during that day.
Actually, I would say especially during an emergency because that's when religious people need their religion the most.
I would agree with that. Okay.
Yeah, this one's going to piss me off.
Really? Okay.
Oh, who's the far right? Because of parents?
No.
Hundreds of far right activists give Nazi salute at a rally in a chilling scene. If you thought that this was archival footage from Germany,
hold on, let me hear the rest of it. Start again.
If you thought that this was an archival footage from Germany during the Second World War, you would be wrong. This is present-day Italy during Giorgia Meloni's premiership. Hundreds of people.
I want a quick rant here.
Go ahead.
Far right activists wouldn't be giving the Nazi salute because Nazis, like fascists, are a derivative of Marxism, which is far fucking left.
Okay.
Do you think that these people who are giving these Nazis these salutes are actually plants?
Oh
No,
no,
they're
I mean, it's
actually
not the it's not the Mr. Tiki Torch guys.
no, because they were giving the outside neo-Nazi fucking headquarters. They're far left. They're not far right. They're far left.
Okay. Let's talk about this for a moment.
Try and convince them that.
Let's talk about this. First of all, Giorgio
Oh, they're all doing
Meloni,
it. Wow.
the prime minister, all right, is, if I'm not mistaken, a descendant
Georgia,
of
Roman salute.
Georgia,
Yeah.
Georgia
Mussolini.
Maloney.
Yeah, she's a descendant of, to some degree, she has blood ties to Mussolini. Okay.
Well,
I think
then
so does half. From what I've heard, so does half of Italy.
Well, that's
so
probably
they don't actually give the Nazi salute, then, do they? Then Mussolini, but sure, have their own one, wouldn't they?
well,
Yeah,
the
very
Nazi
much like the
salute.
Nazi salute.
The Nazi salute, for people who don't know, it's kind of a base from the old Roman Empire.
Roman salute, yeah.
It's a salute which has been used by many different cultures and civilizations.
Well, I know, and but let's talk about, first of all, what you were saying, Batman, which I completely disagree with, or I completely agree with. All right, I said disagree, but I meant agree. When I
Nimmelhorst is
read
saying
this story the
that,
first time, go ahead.
Nimmelhorst is saying that the NSDAP fought communism.
No,
Yes, so did Hitler, so did the Nazi Germany, but
they fought
that's that. Hold
people
on,
they
let
declared
me
as
finish.
communists.
Let me finish. That's just like Trotskyists fighting Leninists, fighting Stalinists, fighting Marxists. They're all still communists, but they're fighting each other.
Yeah, they're not fighting communism. They're fighting
They're
other
fighting a
people who
different type
claimed that
of
were
communism.
communists. All right, because they're
Yeah.
fighting for
Different
power.
factions of communism.
All right, now I thought for the longest time I was always wondering, where do these people come from? How does this this group gain strength? How does an organization, all right, gain power like this, right? And
Same way they did in Nazi Germany.
well, but there has to be, you have to look at things, and I think you got to look at the way people are and examine
When
things.
people are having their lives, hold up, when people like in Germany during the 20s and 30s, people are having their lives basically torn apart by things beyond their control. In our day and age, it's political correctness, globalism, unchecked immigration. And somebody comes along with a solution that seems to make sense at the time, seems to work at the time. They're going to rally behind that cause.
Well, but I think it has.
That's how it worked in Germany.
I think it has also to do with the fact that, and I don't think you can understate this. The difference between these fascists and the communists are the difference in morality. And I'm not, do not misunderstand me. I'm not justifying anything. I'm talking about from a societal perspective. Okay, what you have with communists is, we don't want, and this is wherever you find communists, that's where you're going to find this crap, right? Where they talk about the, oh, there's no such thing as marriage. There's all this, lasciviousness. There's all this degeneracy, and it's promoted by these people. Okay.
Yeah, the difference is fascists and Nazis promote the family, marriage,
Right.
and morality, but not because it's good for the individual. Because in both fascism and National Socialism,
Well,
everything is subservient to the state.
correct. And it's not that the Nazi regime, especially the Nazi leadership, wasn't as degenerate as the communists were. All right. The difference was is what they were promoting through from a social perspective. So to people who are moral group of people who believe in morality, that faction of leftism appeals to them. And then you add to the one more factor, which is nationalism. If you put a nationalistic flavor to it, it appeals to them even more. So when you talk about who these people are, who these fascists and everybody is, they're just leftists, all right, who have rejected the immorality, all right, being pushed by the far left communists, the degenerate ones, who are pushing the degeneracy, right? But they'll both use the same thing. They both will sit up there and try and use the authoritarian tactics to tell you how to live your life.
Yep.
And they will
And if
stomp
you
out
don't listen to them,
they'll stomp out individual
Yeah.
rights at every opportunity.
and if you don't live your life the way they tell you to, that's when they use their other method. It's called the secret police,
Yes.
the Gestapo, whatever you want to call them.
It's an unfortunate way of looking at it, but that's how these people
Yep.
gain power, right? They're just leftists. When people say, "Do you support this?" Well, no, I don't support the degeneracy that these people are spewing. Okay, well, we're leftists too, just like you, but we just don't support that. And what I'm talking about this whole, for example, trying to push trans shit on kids. All right, trying to sit up there and justify
Mhm.
pedophilia. Whether you want to admit it or not, the current left, as it exists in this country today, at least in the United States, right, is pushing that. It is one of the things that they're pushing.
We know.
All right.
Yeah, that song, "We're Coming for Your Children."
Oh, yeah,
They are.
Yeah.
yeah.
Then
They
it
are.
was
They
only
already
a
are.
joke, bro. We were only joking. No, you weren't.
You know, they weren't joking at all. It's amazing that some of the people who they had on, I use the term loosely, singing that song. Somebody, I don't know who it was. I think it was Sargon Avocado. He looked at all these people that was on there and looked for them, and a lot of them are on the sex offenders list.
Yeah.
Bring children.
The first two on that video are the ones that stick into my mind because they are two of the most punchable faces I've ever seen. Yeah, that smug little shit-eating smile that they've got.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. All right. First of all, in the United States, for people who don't know, there's a huge with polar express coming in there and freezing people to death. All right. Anyway.
Ice Age is coming.
Well,
Ice Age is coming.
Taiwan defies China, electing a new president, Beijing labeled as a separatist troublemaker. Voters in Taiwan elected Vice President Lai Ching-te as their next president on Saturday, defying warnings from Beijing not to support a candidate that has called a separatist, or that has called a separatist, is called
That
a
it has
separatist.
called a separatist
All
and
right,
a troublemaker.
been called a separatist and troublemaker. The presidential candidate for Taiwan's main opposition party, Kuomintang Hu Yu He. I'm not trying to butcher your name. I just can't
Now
pronounce
you're
it.
just taking the piss.
No, I'm really not. I mean, I'm trying to. I'm not trying to butcher the name. Now, these guys are trying to butcher your name, but I was not intentionally butchering your name. All right, on Saturday, conceded defeat in the election within hours of the polls closing, which tells you it was an overwhelming vote. Okay, now China has a lot of problems at the moment. All right, internally and externally, things are not working out well for its Belt and Road Initiative. Right, it's things have not been working out within their economic spheres. Okay, and so they're having problems internally. So Xi
Oh yes,
Jinping started ramping up the rhetoric. All right, in preparation. And let's be perfectly honest, he has every intention of militarily taking Taiwan, and he was ramping that up until he found out how rampant the corruption was within their armed forces, and the fact that if they attempted to attack Taiwan, they were going to get beaten. Okay? Because when you have
that would be
missiles,
humiliating.
when you have missiles fueled with water on your missile,
Oh, yep.
you have a problem.
Thanks.
Hey, Maddie.
You're just saying, "Hey, Maddie," and she's been in the chat for ages.
Yeah. We've all said hello to Maddie. Where you been?
God.
I've been behind the times listening to the Batman go on and on and on and on. Don't you like how I blamed you for that, Batman? I had to find something.
You've basically lied.
So are you going to blame Batman for everything else that gets fucked up?
Well, isn't that
He
what
usually
we,
does.
isn't that normal? I mean, I thought that was part of the
Yeah.
standard.
You?
Yeah. It's irritating for everyone else.
Well, let me ask you a question, Sixer. Isn't it normally true that Batman is to blame?
It depends on the situation.
See?
No, it isn't actually.
On to the next story.
Well, if Six is choking to death on a stream, then yes, I am to blame.
Yes, that's his fault. Yes. That's what I mean. Depending on the situation. Yeah.
Spirit Airlines passenger arrested for asking flight attendants to join the Mile High Club.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was like just a club that he started for anybody who who was in first class and had nothing to do with sex? That would be hilarious, though.
Yeah, but
I know it isn't, but that would be hilarious.
He's not getting arrested for asking flight attendants to join the Mile High Club. Okay, the FBI is investigating a Spirit Airlines passenger who allegedly asked flight attendants to join
Six
the Mile
put your
High
headphones
Club.
on.
The Department of Justice announced Friday. There's a major reverb coming from you, Sixer.
Yeah, you need to put your headset on.
The FBI is investigating Spirit Airlines passenger who allegedly asked flight attendants to join the Mile High Club earlier this week, the Department of Justice announced on Friday. James Warren Finster? Okay. 47 is facing criminal charges for interfering with a flight crew member's sexually harassing and assaulting flight attendants. See, it's not just the asking part, right? And engaging in other disruptive behavior while on board Flight 693 from Louisville, Kentucky to Orlando. Court records state that the Detroit native first asked lead flight attendant if she wanted to join the Mile High Club before pulling a second crew member into his seat and asking her the same question. Okay. That isn't just asking if you want to join the Mile High Club, right? And being turned down, no. When you start grabbing people, you have a problem.
Yep.
The passenger is also accused of lying on the floor of the plane after being moved to a new seat and requesting entry into the airplane's cockpit. Okay,
I may be committing suicide by Maddie because of what I put in the chat there.
Oh, is that what it is?
Right, guys, dinner's here, so I'm gonna have to drop out. You guys take care, all right?
Okay,
see you later, you dirty dropout.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
in.
well, I'll probably be back on doing my own stream later tonight. So take care, guys.
Enjoy.
Right, have a good one, mate.
Bye.
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 All right. Now I know this next story you don't really care about Batman because it doesn't really impact you. In and of itself. Texas National Guard blocks federal agents from key stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border. Austin, Texas, in a significant escalation in state and federal tensions over immigration policies, the Biden administration accused Texas officials of blocking Border Patrol access to an important stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border. The U.S. Department of Justice complained that the Texas National Guard troops fenced off the Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, blocking federal agents from the only safe and accessible boat ramp for that section of the Rio Grande. The state also erected razor wire along the 2.5 miles of river, restricting federal ability to position mobile surveillance trucks or other access, access a staging area to evaluate migrants apprehended in the area. That was because what the feds were doing was they were grabbing the migrants, putting them there, saying, okay, we got your things, and then releasing them into the state instead of taking them back across the border, which is what they were supposed to do. And that this became a major point where literally tens of
I've got a
thousands
question.
of
I've
Mexicans
got to
were
ask you a
coming into this
question.
border at the behest of these assholes, and now the feds are like, well, you won't let us go in there. No, we're not. We're going to prevent
I've
this
got
from
to ask
happening.
you a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think, like I'm thinking about our own border security services,
Well,
that
yeah.
they're taking? Hold on, let me finish. That they're taking hefty bribes from the people smugglers.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Very much so. The
Yeah.
the border patrol. I hate to say this, but it's true. A lot of the border patrol is on the take. I'm not saying the majority, but a lot of them are. Okay, a lot of the customs control boards, they're on the take. A lot of them. Now,
hmm
what's happened in this case is this used to be quote unquote public land. At which point the federal government was saying we can, you can't do anything this through some, and it's some nefarious stuff. I'm not going to deny this, through some backdoor legalese weaseling. All right, what they've done, what the state of Texas has done, is they've declared this section that they were working within no longer public, but it's private land now, and they are banning Border Patrol from having access to it. Okay, at the same time, they have taken control over it by saying, "Okay, well, we got an agreement with these guys." So it's kind of legalese, but it's very effective. And the border patrol people
It's
who were doing everything they could to bring these migrants in, including, you see them in this picture here. I'll put this back up. You
yeah,
can see them putting up this razor wire, right? This concertina wire. All right.
yep.
The border patrol was ripping it back down. And
You know what they should
so
have done?
the people in Texas
They
have said,
shouldn't have
we've
just.
had enough. And it's going to become, at some point, it's going to come to a head. I want people to understand this.
Yeah.
This is something that could
Oh
easily
yeah.
turn into conflict in a in a hot zone.
State versus state.
All right.
Yeah. What Texas have done is basically, and quite deliberately, given a big thumbs up to the. A big two finger to the federal government.
Well, yeah. And so these things are now
But
happening
you know what they should have
as a
done?
result.
That
What?
razor wire should have also been electrified.
You can't quite do it like that. It doesn't work that way. But
If you sit down and plan it, you probably could.
there you can create electric fences. Don't work the way they show on television. Okay, I want people to
I
understand
know.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
I know. It's all volts, hardly any amps, so it's going to hurt you, but it's not going to kill you.
Oh no, it could kill you. I mean, you use enough power.
Uh,
If you put enough power behind it, it can kill you. Right.
it's
Enough
it's
volts
it's
will has the potential. 1500 volts has the potential of stopping your heart. Now, will it stop the heart of most
no, that's
people? Not
amps.
always. No, no, no.
It's
Volts. You got to understand
it's
something. To how it has to break down. Right. See, volts have to break down what they call the impedance of your skin. Okay. So
it's not the volts which kill you. It's the amps.
that's not true. That is
That's
absolutely
what
not
I meant.
true. Because I know people say that, all right. But for example, if you have something with 700,000 amps, all right, but 5 volts, you can literally walk up with your fingers and touch it, and nothing will happen
I might be getting it wrong, but there's one way, and it's done with electrical fences. It's high in one and it's not high in
to you.
another, so
Right.
you get
It's
the shock,
high.
but it's not going to kill you.
Well, in most electric fence wiring, right, has high voltage, almost no amps. However, okay, it's also pulsed. Okay, it's not continuous.
hmm
Right. But what stops the heart, right, is the shock. Right. But you can
No,
catch
well,
a
no,
shock.
no,
You
no.
can hold on. You can get shocked by just a small amount of amp of amperage. All right, that'll stop your heart. The difference is total power to the heart. Okay, and power is a relationship between amps and voltage. Okay, so it isn't.
Actually, what stops the heart is when the guy who set up the electric fence gets the energy bill.
That's probably true too. All right, but I mean, even even little things can actually things that don't normally kill people. You can, like I said, you can die from a shock, or your heart can be stopped just because of a shock. Okay, I mean it's unlikely, but it can happen. It's just
Well,
it
it's one
just
of the
depends how
deliberate
things work.
designs in. It's one of the deliberate designs in a lot of modern handguns. It's the impact force triggers a hydrostatic shock, which will interrupt your heartbeat and kill you.
That and that's an effect as well. All right, but
Yeah,
the to say that you could electrify that fence would be very difficult.
I
Now
didn't say it would be easy, but it would be fun,
I don't know if it'd be
especially if somebody gets tangled in it. Yeah, imagine that.
getting tangled up in that concertina wire is no fun. All right, I mean it's
Yeah, especially if it was electrified.
yeah. People think that if they've ever gone on a ranch or they've ever gone on a farm and they've seen barbed wire, they think that this concertina wire is like that barbed wire. It's not. Okay, I want people to
No, razor
understand that
wire is different.
it's a lot thicker. It's not something you can just walk up with a pair of pliers from Home Depot and cut. Okay, it
No.
won't. Your pliers aren't
Uh,
going to be able to cut through that very easily. Now
yeah,
you
there's,
could
there's a
eventually work
simple
it, but
thing.
it's not easy to do because it's thick and
Sim,
it's
sim, sim, simple thing, Nomad. Barbed wire is there to impede the progress of cattle and animals. They'll catch themselves on the wire and I'm not going near that.
uh,
Razor wire is there to impede the progress of people
yes.
who can be a lot more who are generally a lot more determined than animals and can work their way around something like barbed wire.
Yes.
They can't. Yeah, it's a lot more difficult with razor wire.
Yeah. It's meant to do this. Go on to a related story. Republicans draw a red line for border enforcement deal. Let's see what idiot wrote this. Alex Rohenda, right? After weeks of
Alex foreign
negotiation,
name.
After weeks of negotiation, the Senate appeared close to reaching a bipartisan agreement to strengthen enforcement efforts on the U.S.-Mexico border. However, one key sticking point has held up the effort. Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, lead Republican negotiator, said on Fox Sunday that he expected the Senate would see legislative text outlining the potential border deal this week, only to tell reporters on Monday that such a deal appeared unlikely. Lead Democrat negotiator, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, said the same day that the issue of parole authority, a mechanism through which the government can temporarily admit migrants for urgent humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons, stood as the main point of contention. Okay, and then what you find out later on is this one, all right? The key is to stop letting now literally millions of people into the country who will, in almost all cases, not show up for an immigration court hearing and thereby become permanent residents of the United States, said Republican Senator Mitt Romney. This is an
There's only one
entire
reason.
thing. Hold on. This is an entire thing to try and rehabilitate Mitt Romney, all right, or Mitt Romney to conservatives, and it will not work. Oh, Mitt,
Yeah,
where were
there's only
you
one.
years ago, dude?
There's only one reason why uh, Democrats in the US and the left in the UK want immigration is because they believe that these people will swell their voting bloc.
No, they will.
That's the only reason. If they didn't think that they'd get the votes from them, they wouldn't even consider them.
That's true. That's very true. It is an effort to replenish their voting base. All right, because their voting base is becoming less stable now for a variety of
Yep.
reasons, demographically for one of them. All right, but the immigration in this country has been so out of control. Now people are saying, okay, we want to remove the authority to just let these people in by Biden, because you know what Biden will do. Biden will say, oh, I've got the authority to sit up there and let these people in after I catch them. Not if you take it away from them. If you say you have to return these people under law immediately, okay, then all that
Mhm.
goes away. But see, we all know what these people will do. They're already being coached. Come in and say that you want asylum because your life is terrible, all right, or that people are hunting your lives, and they never show up. You don't have to offer any proof. You don't have to offer any evidence, all right. And if you don't, long as you don't ever show up again, you're running around wild in the country,
Yep.
and
And
that's what they
it's
want.
all Nimble Horse's fault.
It's all Nimble Horse's fault. No, it's close to your fault. On to the next story.
No, in that case, it's probably your fault.
Follow the couch of Usher. A wanted woman who police recently discovered hiding inside a hotel couch has been sentenced to serve 2 years in prison for drug dealing, records show. Stacy Usher, all right, 39, was arrested last year after she sold fentanyl to a police informant in Citrus County, Florida. Of course, it had to be Florida. All right. Earlier this
Mhm.
year, Usher pleaded no contest to a pair of felony counts and was sentenced to 24 months of probation as well as
Well,
drug offender conditions that included random testing and prohibition against consuming alcohol. In late October,
you know why
Usher
she
was okay. Let me finish this. In late October, Usher was accused of violating terms of her probation, and a judge subsequently issued an arrest warrant for her. Usher would later beg not to be violated, since she claimed her life would be in danger if she went to prison.
you know why she was arrested for selling fentanyl, don't you? Because
Why?
it's damaging Florida's economy. Because their economy is based on crack, not fentanyl.
Cops caught up with Usher last month at the Bella Oasis Hotel, which advertised itself as the best hotel in Homosassa Springs, Florida. I'm not even sure I said that one right. All right. As seen in the above photo, Usher had actually burrowed into a couch in a bid to hide from police deputies.
You just can't make this shit up, can you?
No, you can't. Yeah. Another state. A Wisconsin Supreme
Oh,
Court
for
justice
fuck's
says we're
sake.
going to lose this battle for democracy to a bunch of insurrectionists if public officials don't speak out about the threats they've received.
Bullshit.
All right. In recent years, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has been hit with a series of threats, part of a harassment campaign against public officials and institutions that have become increasingly common across the country. For Justice Jill Karofsky, all right, the threats must be taken seriously. Karofsky, who served on the Wisconsin court since her election in 2020, told the Washington Post that officials must be vocal in informing the public about threats or they'll lose the fight for democracy. You, as a Supreme Court justice, as a justice, are in the least democratic section of the country, and you're bitching about it because you want violence and intimidation only to work one way. If the leftists
And
do it,
I
everything
bet
is
she,
fine. If somebody says,
yeah, I
I
bet,
disagree with you, you stupid cunt, oh, I'm being harassed. Oh, he threatened my life. He threatened my life. When somebody gets in the face of
I
these
bet
people,
she's, I bet she's abiding this plant as well.
oh no, she's definitely one of these lunatics. Okay, she's
Yeah,
definitely one of these
she's been,
leftist loons.
she's been placed there by the people behind your current administration.
Now, I'm not advocating threatening people's lives or anything else,
No,
but the thing
no.
is that
You
she
threaten.
came out.
If you want to threaten, hold on. If you want to threaten something, you threaten their ideas.
Well,
You challenge their motives.
well,
You don't threaten lives.
and that's one of the problems that she has is she came in there saying, "Oh no, I'm going to be fair, I'm going to be honest," and as soon as she got in there. As soon as this woman got in there, she
She
went
was unfair and
radical leftist as far as you could go, made ridiculous rulings, and the people in the state of Wisconsin were like, "You promised that you wouldn't do this." All right. So consequently, All right, people are getting in their faces and telling them how much of a they disagree with them. Now, are some of these people lives being threatened? I have no doubt. I seriously have no doubt that that's happening. Okay, there are lunatics
It
out
is
there.
on both sides.
Okay, but I will say
Yeah, they are.
this. I will say this. I
Like
would
worse,
venture to
worse.
say that the vast majority of the threats that even she is receiving are coming from leftists that disagree that they didn't go far enough.
Yeah, hey, worse. Yeah, there are lunatics out there, but there are also people out there who will who will anonymously send death threats like that just because they know it's going to wind somebody up.
Yeah. All right,
Not
let's go.
because they even intend to follow through, or even if they actually mean them, just because they like giving somebody something to be frightened of.
Yeah, let's go back overseas again,
It's
shall we?
just like the kids who fall in a bomb threat. Yeah, for
Yes.
shits and giggles.
Yeah, there is a difference there. Prosecutors, all right, may not build case versus bigwigs of scandal hit LDP faction. This is from Kyoto News in Japan. Prosecutors are unlikely to build a criminal case against key members of the largest faction of Japan's ruling LDP party, all right, or Liberal Democrat Party, in connection with a political fundraising scandal that has rocked the LDP, the sources close to the matter said on Saturday. The LDP has been under intense scrutiny as the faction, formerly headed by the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, is suspected of having failed to report hundreds of millions of yen in revenue from fundraising parties and accumulated slush funds for over a 5-year period through 2022. The Tokyo prosecutors have been investigating whether lawmakers from the inter-party group have colluded with the faction's accountants, all right, in violation of the political funds under the law. But you're not going to build a criminal case against these guys?
Yeah. Hey, that's the funny thing though. What the Japanese call liberals in the West would look incredibly conservative.
Yeah, but that's probably true. All right.
I see you just went past the Taylor Swift story there.
Yeah, I'm not touching that thing. Well, first of all, it's a New York Times story, and I don't give a shit about Taylor
Yeah.
Swift. All right.
No,
Local
what?
bans on homeless people sleeping in public earn a Supreme Court review. The Supreme Court said on Friday it would consider whether local laws prohibiting homeless people from sleeping on public property is cruel and unusual punishment barred by the
I
Constitution.
think it actually is. I mean, where else are they going to sleep?
The Oregon city of Grants Pass asked the High Court to review a lower court's decision to block it from enforcing its public camping ordinance, writing that the decision cemented a conflict with California courts that have upheld a similar ordinances. The city cited a slew of potential consequences for allowing the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision to stand, including crime, fires, environmental harm, and the reemergence of medieval diseases. All right, drug overdoses and death. The Ninth Circuit Court of
Hold
Appeals.
on a minute. Reemergence of medieval diseases. What you mean, like smallpox, Black Death, leprosy, which they already have in California?
No, that's the point. All right, the decisions are legally wrong. All right, and have tied the hands of local governments as they work to address urgent homelessness crises. All right, said Thien Evangelis, the lawyer for Grant Pass. All right, the tragedy is that these decisions are actually harming the very people they purport to protect. Okay. The question is how public are public? If you have if you have something that says that you were saying is public, how public is public?
Hmm.
Can you ban the public from something that you claim is public property? It
I've
really
seen it.
what it goes into essences. Can you
I've
do
seen
things?
I've seen videos, California, specifically Los Angeles and in New York, in fact, where they're putting like metal coverings on park benches and stuff, so that you can sit on them, right?
Hmm.
But you try and sleep on them, and it'd just be too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like on like doorways and that, where they've put like metal studs on the floor, so you can't sleep on them either.
Well, one of the things they're having is a camping thing. They are having these homeless encampments
Yeah.
spreading
Oh
into
yeah,
these
and
areas,
an
and those
important
are
thing.
becoming problems.
one important point. Hello, Sean. Yeah, Sean just turned up.
That's your important point. Hi, Sean.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy
What, you saying
14.
Sean's not important?
No, I didn't say that. Boy 14 killed subway surfing in New York City with devastating aftermath captured by the Post photographer. A 14-year-old boy was killed subway surfing in Brooklyn on Friday after a devastating aftermath was captured in the heart-rending Post images, including one of a single sneaker lying beneath the elevated tracks. Witnesses told police that the teen had climbed on top this the F train as it approached the Avenue N stop, which sits along the border between the Borough Park and Midwood neighborhoods, and fell onto the tracks around 2:20 p.m. He was then struck by an oncoming train, which tried to stop in time but couldn't. The tragic toll
I feel sorry for the driver.
of the dangerous stunt gone wrong was plainly visible moments after the accident.
I feel sorry for the driver. I feel sorry for the kid's parents. The kid died. His death certificate should read death by stupidity.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. Um, th- Too often the media portrays these things as being absolutely harmless, right? And movies are a prime example of it. The one that comes dramatically to mind is Teen Wolf, right? Where Michael J. Fox
How?
climbs on top of
He's a
the van.
fucking werewolf, though.
I understand
It's
that.
it's totally not real.
Well, but the thing is
And
that people think that kind
the
of
thing
stuff is
is,
cool, and they
if
think
you're going
there's
to get
not a problem.
if you're going to get influenced by a movie, you're going to get influenced by the news. You're using the same argument that they used in the 80s to cut out all the violent bits in cartoons.
You gotta admit that there's a difference between news being read where people are just giving you the dry facts versus where it's sensationalized and made to look
News
cool.
isn't always read. News isn't only read. A lot of times there are pictures involved there, and news is kind of sensationalized. It always has been.
Well, yeah, it can be, and you can encourage behavior and discourage behavior. All right,
Yeah,
it is what it
but
is.
on average, the vast majority, the ridiculously vast majority of people, adults and children alone, recognize the difference between what is real and what is fantasy.
I don't disagree with that, right? But that doesn't mean that
Apart from where I come from, but
encouraging behavior doesn't have an
yeah,
effect. Okay. Harvard,
if you go look, look,
Harvard
yeah,
Yard
I know what I'm talking about because I come from a fictional universe. So
Harvard is Harvard Yard is sued by Jewish students over rampant anti-Semitism. Not a surprise. Harvard University is being sued by Jewish students who claim the school has failed to punish campus anti-Semitism that has soared after the Hamas attack on Israel, and it has helped lead to the ouster of President Claudine Gay, who's still getting paid
you
her
know what makes me laugh?
$900,000 a year salary by this
Yeah,
university.
you know what makes me laugh about all this shit? These students and basically everybody in the West now who's engaging in rampant anti-Semitism still decry the Holocaust and think that Hitler's Germany and the Nazis were evil people when they're doing exactly the same thing.
Well, they're calling for it, yeah. Harvard administrators failed to enforce policies that should protect Jewish students from anti Semitic speech and conduct, according to a lawsuit filed on Wednesday in Boston federal court. Students cited the U.S. civil rights law that has been used to sue New York University, the University of Pennsylvania, the University of California, Berkeley, as well. The lawsuit comes amid turmoil at Harvard, America's oldest and richest university, where Gay resigned. She may have resigned, but she's still being paid by the university.
Yep.
And on a side story that goes right along with this, MIT lecturer who resigned from dream job said he could no longer be in a system that foments anti-Semitism. An academic
Formants.
foments, yes, an academic who resigned
Formant.
foment foment,
Ah,
not
yeah,
foment.
you've got the bad American version there. Right.
All right. An academic who resigned from MIT last month published a recent column explaining his decision, noting that he could no longer be part of a system that foments anti Semitism. The MIT computer science lecturer, I'm not going to, Karchmer, I'll say your last name, who is of Jewish descent, lamented how his school could not outright condemn Hamas's October 7th attack in Israel
Mauricio
and how many thank you. Um, how many facility or faculty, excuse me, and students endorsed anti-Israel rhetoric following the atrocity? Karchmer opened his piece by recounting how he urged the head of his department to issue a statement of support for Israelis and Jews in the immediate wake of the attack. The lecturer noted he believed that such
uh,
statements would be a no brainer considering that the university had sent statements before on various issues, such as a message condemning the murder of George Floyd in 2020 and another standing in solidarity with the Asian community amid a wave of hate crimes in 2021. Karchmer,
George Floyd
however,
wasn't
said
murdered.
the message sent out by the department was riddled with equivocations without mentioning the barbarity of the Hamas's attack, stating only
Barbarity.
that we are deeply horrified by the violence against civilians and wish to express our deep concern for all those involved. Now, I want you to listen to that. Your deep concern for all those involved? All those involved include the guys
Apart
that
from
perpetrated it.
yeah, and to play a slight devil's advocate,
Mm-hmm.
you can be anti-Palestinian anti-Israel without being anti-Jewish, because not all Israelis are Jewish.
I agree.
Yes, the vast majority are, but not all of them.
Well, the thing is hard for Americans to understand that Israel is not a secular state. They still think of it as a secular state. It is not. Okay? It's not a theocracy, but it's not a secular state.
It's a Jewish majority state.
Well, it's not just Jewish majority, they consider themselves a Jewish state.
Yeah,
They consider themselves to an extent a type of theocracy. It's not the same kind of theocracy that you see in Iran, right? But it's not a secular state like you have in, for example, Great Britain.
yeah.
Right?
Like, that's the funny thing. We're supposed to be a Christian state, right? But our government and the way the country is run is, for the most part, always has been secular.
Yeah.
The United States is supposed to be a secular state, but religion plays a hell of a lot, a hell of a big part in
Well,
your politics.
philosophy is philosophy, and
No, religion
how much
plays
religion
a lot
plays
of a big part.
within our politics is we could have a discussion on that on a different day. Sherry
Because I
Redstone.
understand there are.
All right, Sherry Redstone launches auction of Paramount Global's holding company, says sources. Sherry Redstone is launching a formal auction of National Amusements, the holding company that controls struggling media giant Paramount Global, the Post has learned. BDT Capital Partners, the bankers for Redstone, the 69-year-old daughter of the late media baron Summer Redstone, has begun circulating non disclosure agreements to private equity firms to view the National Amusements financials, widening the search for prospective bidders, which thus far have included Warner Brothers, Discovery. All right, according to sources close to the situation, Redstone is looking for a steep markup for the National Amusements, which has a 10% stake of Paramount Global and controls 77% of its voting shares, as much as 50% of its market value, according to a source briefed in the process. Think CBS, folks. That's what this is. They're trying to sell off aspects of things. Paramount Global, whose movie studio is behind Mission Impossible and Transformer, also owns CBS, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, and MTV.
Which is why you got 3 different types of Star Trek on the run.
Right? People are very
Paramount owns one part of the copyright. CBS owns another part, and there's another company owns the third part, but they're all in the same family of companies.
Right. And so CBS is basically trying to downsize. It's basically selling media companies, and this feeds into these things here. The Onion staffers threaten to strike ahead of a contract talks deadline. 97% of the 34-person union at the satire site, all right, the Audiovisual Club and other publications have signed a strike pledge vowing a work stoppage for The Onion. Creative staffers at The Onion, the AV Club, and Deadspin are threatening a strike if no contract deal is reached by their current PAC's expiration date on January 31st. The strike pledge, signed by 97% of unionized staffers at the Union Inc., was submitted to parent company Geo Media in a bargaining session Thursday. I stand by my colleagues and I will vote yes in a strike vote. Okay, you're a satire parody site. Why would anyone believe anything you have to say on any of this?
That's what I was thinking.
All right.
I bet even management doesn't believe them. Yeah, they're a bunch of kidders, those guys.
Yeah, well, if you want to be replaced, Houston reporters had huge hope for nonprofit newsroom until the firings. When they heard the rumors of turmoil at the top, journalists at the Houston Landing, all right, gathered in a newsroom on Monday. There, they listened through a door as the CEO fired their beloved editor, and then a star reporter was fired too. Bye-bye! It's because, guess what? When it comes right down to it, if you're not producing profit, you're gone.
Yeah,
all right?
Busy white.
And there's plenty of writers now that are
Lynn,
gone.
you're sacked.
Yeah, well, the Onion, let's be honest. Do you need anybody working at the Onion? Or could you do all of it via AI?
No, you couldn't. You need people still working there, and I don't trust AI being used in creativity, because every other aspect of human endeavour which has been taken over by machinery, we've lost skills in those areas. And the same will happen with creativity.
I think
which might be why
correct.
It's being pushed, because the powers that be don't like creativity, right?
The true creativity.
Masses.
I will agree that true creativity will not happen from these things. They'll be just mimic forms.
It might, but not in our lifetime.
Well,
I hope.
Like I said, true creativity. People that are truly creative will still be necessary and still be used. All right, but a lot of the crap that is not really creative. All right, and this is something that artists, for the longest time, have gotten away with. Okay, people have lauded a lot of the crap that they've produced and saying it's so creative, when in reality, it's derivative. So much of it was derivative. And creativity is not necessarily a great thing either. Basketball's in a fish tank, for example.
If you want to be like that, every piece of art is derivative, because it's all been done before.
I didn't say that there wouldn't be impacted. All right, but not all art has done before. The person who first chiseled a statue, all right, was the first person who chiseled a statue. It had not been done before. All right.
Obviously there's got to be a starting point, but all art, this point, all art has been done before.
Well, no, I'm sure that more art will come.
You get variations on themes, but it doesn't matter. It's still being done. Somebody's still done it somewhere.
I don't deny that there isn't an aspect of that. That's true.
And you know the horrible thing? You know that Pablo Picasso? Yeah, that self-portrait he did.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't impressionist. That's actually what he looked like. Very inbred fellow.
A patron charged with a Subway sandwich battery. Upset that his sandwich had not been sliced into two pieces, a Subway customer allegedly threw the offended hero at the store clerk, striking her with the grub, according to a police report yesterday. All right, and
Oh, for
arrested
fuck's sake.
who arrested the man for battery. Cops say that Alberto de Barros, 54, was collared following a confrontation last night at a Subway restaurant near his residence in Stuart, Florida. What a surprise!
So all he did, hold on. All he did was throw a sandwich at this bint.
Well, we don't know.
That's all he did,
We'll take a look.
apparently.
We will go through
It's a
this.
fuck.
Subway worker Cassandra Pierre Lewis told sheriff's deputies that De Barrios, a licensed building contractor, became upset with her after finding out that his sandwich had not been separated, according to a probable cause affidavit. Following a brief verbal exchange, Pierre Lewis said De Barros began causing a disruptive scene. After the Subway worker announced that she would no longer be serving De Barros, the sandwich was thrown at Ms. Pierre Louise. All right, the sandwich, which struck Louise in the hair, mid to lower body section, is not further described by investigators. When De Barros left the restaurant, Pierre Louise followed him outside and photographed his license plates, which led cops to De Barros near the Porpoise Circle townhouse. During
I
police
bet you.
questioning, De
I bet you.
Barros acknowledged being upset over his sandwich not being cut, adding that he believed he threw the sandwich at the counter instead of Ms. Paris Louise. All right, store surveillance footage showed De Barros swipe the sandwich off the counter, which subsequently strikes her. He was arrested for
I bet you.
battery, a misdemeanor, and booked on after he had to post $1,000 bond. That's insane.
I bet you. I bet you as little as 10 years ago, the cops would have just laughed at her.
They definitely
I
shouldn't
mean,
have. They definitely should not have arrested this guy for this. They should have just said,
no.
in my opinion.
And if he'd thrown it at a man, it wouldn't have even gotten this far.
Yeah. Final story of the day, folks. Final story.
Thank fuck for that.
Texas Zoo welcomes first lion birth since 2015. The Fort Worth Zoo in Texas offered the first look at the first baby lion to be born there since 2015. Zoo said that Moja, born in October to parents Saba and Abagabi, all right, weighed 2.7 pounds and when he was 4 days old and has since grown to 16 pounds. Moba is still being kept off in an off exhibit area with his mother, and officials decided have not decided when he will go on public display. The little guy is learning what play means and can usually be found pouncing and playing with his mom, the zoo officials said. Now, African lions are listed as threatened by the International Union for Conservation in Nature's Red List. I have a question about this, which is, don't lions normally birth multiple cubs?
Normally, yeah.
I wonder what happened
But
to its siblings. It doesn't go into it at all here.
might be one of those variances where they only birth one.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. It's an unfortunate thing.
Animals breeding patterns differ in captivity to how they breed in the wild.
Yes, that I do.
Sometimes they actually produce less offspring in a single litter. Sometimes just one.
I find it kind of unusual. It's unfortunate. I'm glad that the Lion Club was
Either
born.
way, it's nice. It's nice to end on a pleasant note.
Yeah, which is one of the things.
But we're not going to, because
we're not going to. Why?
Because when you say goodbye to everybody, I'm going to tell them to fuck off.
Oh, so is that what it is? Okay. Well, we're done with the stories for the day, and we're done with everything. So I appreciate everybody coming out. Hope that you all have a good day.
I
And I'll
don't.
talk to you later. All
Yeah,
right.
go on, sod
Bye-bye,
off, you
folks.
lot. It's over. Go on, bugger off. We're finished.